So you said trends and ranges, right? So ranges, like I said yesterday, I mean, that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and it's I think it's improperly used by many, and I think definitely Sean like really like convoluted that one. You know what I mean? With his whole like backside, front side, backside combinations, but then within the backside, front side, triple side, front side, double backside, front side combination platter, front side. You know what I mean? It's like, what? It's so much unnecessary information. And I think that is, man, like that leads to what you've heard me say many times, analysis paralysis, which is a big thing in TA, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, man. There's a lot of information. I mean, shit, we have an infinite amount of time frames and thousands of things on each time frame to kind of balance and weigh out, right? Consider. Let's touch on ranges again real quick. So to me, boiled down in their simplest form, there are two different types of ranges. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have the most basic form of a range is in my opinion, and from doing a lot of research, not just by idiot YouTubers, but using baby pips and Investopedia and all these other things and books and whatnot, right? A range is best looked at like this. It is a low to a high. Okay. So that is the confines of a move. All right. So on this time frame, that is our low at this point in time. We come up to our next really visible high, and it's right there. Okay. So let me spread that out. So that's a range. Okay.
Yeah.
Now you got to understand, not only are there many other ranges back here, and so let's mark a couple of those out real fast. Let's look to illustrate my point. So the previous range would still be from this low, and it would be to I would say to that high. That would be more relevant right there. So that's a range. That's a range. Okay. And then let's mark another one. So it'd be this low to, I would say, yeah, that. So that'd be another range. And we'll mark one more in here.
So am I correct in thinking then that the regions of interest, not levels of one?
Exactly. 100%. There are levels within ranges, but ranges are not levels.
Okay.
Now, you can have levels that are the same points as your upper and lower part of a range, right? So, for instance, at this point in time right here, this high is the top of our range. What are we on the 4 hour? So let me just make this correct. So that'd be a 4 hour, and I'm going to go ahead and clone that. So I can clone that by hitting Control and dragging it, right? I don't know if you knew that, but okay. So at this point, you were talking about, are ranges levels or are they not, right? Like,
yeah.
Yes and no. I would not say that they are directly levels. That is not their biggest significance, but they can still signify levels. Okay. So my point in that is, this was a high and this was a low, and this is kind of where we're stuck right now, right?
Yeah.
So this is obviously a level of importance, what Sean would call a break. And the same with this. This is a low, and it's obviously the bottom of our range, and it's also a level of importance, and it's also a quote unquote break level. So
Yeah.
while we have all these other ranges up through here, and let me mark one, because this will kind of make me be able to illustrate it a little better. That's a low, that's a high. I also have to do one more. That's a low, that's a high. There. So we have all these right here, right? These are all ranges. We have basically the start of a move, the end of a move, the start of a move, the end of a move, start of a move, the end of a move, start, end, so on and so forth, right? Now, another thing to keep in mind, and this comes where the fractal nature of charts kind of comes into play. This is also a range right there. Okay. So this is fractally a higher time frame. I would probably say a daily, possibly a weekly, but let's make this one green. And I believe that this one is a daily. It could be a weekly, but I think it's a daily. It's a daily. Yeah. So see what I'm saying? Like that is a clear and visible high to a low on the daily. And you see how many ranges we have in there?
Yeah.
Like we just marked all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was just on the 4 hour, right? So if we go back to the 4 hour and we look at that, it's like, well, dang, that's a big range. There's a lot of things happening, but that's 4 hour ranges. Okay. So now let's take it a step further. Let's go down to the 1 hour. All right. And we'll kind of focus on this first part right here. So now we could also consider that a range. Change this color to, I gotta find something that'll contrast with that. There we go. All right. And then if I do this one, it's a high to a low. Okay. Another one is this to that. That one.
So you marking different time frames other than the 1 hour, but in the 1 hour?
Sometimes, but you see the first one we marked on the 4 hour, those were 4 hour ranges.
Yeah.
So I'm not really marking fractally. I did on the daily. I marked the daily fractally just to illustrate a point.
Yeah.
That there are ranges that you can learn to see within a different time frame, right? That goes for holds and trends and whatnot as well. It's not something that is obviously a requirement, but it is something that will save you a considerable amount of time, right?
Yeah.
Being able to learn to see things fractally, and it will, more importantly, in my opinion, will help you get less confused and get less of an information overload because of the fractal nature. Because we all know, like, you can look at one time frame and be like, all right, it's moving up. Then we go to a time frame above or below and be like, oh, it's moving down. Go one below that or above that, like, oh, it's moving up again. Like, oh God, what is it doing? It's moving up or down. You know, this one says that one says this, but then the next one says this, and the next one says that again. Like, what do I do? Right.
Yeah.
So that is one way that will help mitigate that confusion. I don't think there's a way in which you can completely mitigate it, but that will 100% help you to lessen that information overload, so to speak. And then if I really wanted to, like, like I said, this is a 1 hour. I marked 1 hour ranges. These green boxes are the 4 hour ranges, right? Now, if I wanted to mark fractal ranges, this may get like a teeny bit confusing. Like I would say, like that's a low. There's a high there. So when I'm marking fractally for information that you can't really see visibly, that is smaller than what you marked on that time frame, it's going to tend to be a lower time frame. But if the information is bigger, like what I did here on the daily, you see how I have these 4 hours marked, right?
Yeah.
All these. And then I marked this big one that I said was probably the daily.
Yeah.
That is more information. So that would tell me that it is a higher time frame. Same as like, you know, the opposite is true with this. All right. I have these 1 hour ranges, the pink ones, right? But I'm marking this right here, and I'm saying that this is probably a 15 minutes. So I'm going to say these are going to probably kind of bleed into each other here. Let me just mark a couple of these. Okay, so here we are. We got the green is our 4 hour, right?
Yeah.
We already determined that. We looked at it on that time frame. The pink was our 1 hour, which is the time frame we're on. Those are our highs to our lows. Okay. Now these 4, 5 orange ones that I just drew, I'm thinking that they're 15 minutes. There may be 1 or 2 of these that are a 5-minute. These here on the end, maybe 5 minutes, but I think 15 is a good place to kind of peg them down to for the most part. So let's kind of look, and you can kind of look. All right, on the 15-minute, here is a low, and there's a high, right? So I could have marked it down to here and picked that up, but I would say that's more of a 5-minute right there. Okay, that's what I said. Some of them are going to kind of bleed over into each other. Then we have a low here, and it comes up, and then there's a high here. This is a 5-minute, right? That's that bleed over effect. When you get in these micro time frames, they kind of tend to meld into each other a little bit more than the higher ones do. So then here we have this low to that high, right? And then we have another low here, and then we have a high, low, and then we have this high over here. Sometimes the horizontal axis won't always line up when you're marking things fractally, but you can see right now, if I drag this straight over to the side, it lines up with that candle almost exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like that's just that's the axis of time, that horizontal axis. Sometimes you can't, that's really difficult to predict marking things fractally. But you can tweak them as you go down, but it still helps you to see things that you wouldn't normally see within other time frames. It speeds you up, and it will lessen your confusion, and your chances for analysis paralysis immensely. I mean, immensely. Now let's just for, you know what's in giggles, let's go to the daily time frame. I'm trying to keep my language clean for videos and whatnot. I'm terrible at that. Like I'm a Christian, but I still curse way more than I should. I'm trying to fix it. But so here on the daily, you can see that daily range, right? And then we can see our 4 hour ranges that were marked, fractally in that. And then if I zoom in on this, like we only see like one kind of box with a little secondary line because that time frame's so far away. And you got to think about how many how many freaking 15-minute candles are in a daily candle, right? Because
Yeah.
we know there's like, 4 of them in an hourly candle, and then there's 4 hourly candles in a 4 hour, you know what I'm saying? So on and so
Yeah.
forth. So sometimes you won't always see the information fractally, but if we go down to, let's say, a 12-hour, see, we get a little bit more of it. And then we go down to a 4-hour, we get even a little bit more of it. And then a 1 hour, we get a little more. And then we go down, of course, to our 15-minute and we get everything, right? That's all of our information. That's all we just marked. And we marked all of this 1 to 2 and even 3 time frames away. And they were all pretty spot on. Like you can see, like right there, like, that was respected. That right there would be a trend. And that's also showing you further distribution, right? This is just one of the many ways to use a range, right? Because I know this is the high I need to gain, and this is the low I need to lose over here. So when I move over into this new range, well, look what happens when I lose that low right here. See, that's my low. Close below it. We have a pullback. Just like I said, we're going to have a pullback, but what matters, do we lose the high that created that low? You could say it was this one, or you could say it was this one. It depends on your time frame. I would say they both mean something, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't gain either one, doesn't even wick them. And then look what happens. Bam. We have another pullback. Doesn't even breach halfway between that high and that low. We lose it again, right? Now we come up higher instead of that. We didn't even hit the 50% point between these right here. So that tells me more strength, right? More move down. Come down, we make a new low, we come back up, but look how far we come up in that range right there. We come almost all the way to the top. So now it's like, oh, well, maybe this pullback on a higher time frame or this move down is nearing its end, right? It's time to start paying attention. So now I'm going to expect this move up, this range right here, to hold kind of high, because if this thing's turning around, it's going to hold higher because there's a lot of strength up. If it comes all the way down to here, that's not a lot of strength. I don't expect it to last long. It's probably a small pullback and it's going to continue to dump, right? But it doesn't. It holds higher than 50% again, just like this one did back here. Does the same thing. And then bam, look, moves up. See what I mean? Like that right there is, I think, really, really powerful information that will help you understand where a move is going. Because I know that's something that you've said that you
really
struggle with, is like, I have all this information, but oftentimes I can't tell like where it's going, right? Like that's the problem with a lot of Sean stuff, is if I were to mark all these holds, 1s, 5s, 15s, 1 hours, 4 hours, daily, whatever, you know what I mean? All right, great. I have 1,227 hold levels on my chart. What do I take, right? So that right there, what I just showed you about where we test in a range, do we come up to the 50% mark, the equilibrium? Do we go beyond it? Do we come all the way to the top or bottom of a range? Those are all going to show you different things. Those are all going to be a big piece of the puzzle that you're trying to piece together, or the story rather, because that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to figure out what the story is that the chart is trying to tell you. And that's what you have to do every day.